Every single player is following in the footsteps of giants, standing on the shoulders of greatness. We are all chasing immortality. It's been a weird summer for Ajax. With Ten Hag departing for Manchester United, former Club Brugge manager Alfred Schreuder had been lined up as his replacement. In the 11th hour, a change of heart saw managing director Edwin van der Sar withdraw the contract offer and instead turn to the relatively unknown Johannes Mustermann. Winning is ingrained in the culture here. Not just winning, but winning the right way. Defeat is not an option. Ten Hag was not the only departure. Lisandro Martinez and Antony joined their former manager in England. Ryan Gravenberch and Sebastian Haller both crossed the border to Germany to face off as foes. In their stead, Rangers Calvin Bassey and Tottenham's Steven Bergwijn arrived for big money. Ajax, as so often before, would have to deal with a summer of major turnover.
Oh look, a ball manager with a beard. How original. Maybe we could consider hiring someone with experience, a pedigree instead.
Calvin f***ing Bassey? You've got to be kidding me. We've sold a Ferrari and replaced it with a f***ing scooter.
The fans were restless, and understandably so. As the financial gap between the Eredivisie and Europe's power leagues deepens, Dutch fans have grown accustomed to feeling a sense of routine abandonment. No sooner have you developed a fondness for a player than they are being unveiled as the latest new arrival to the Bundesliga, Premiership or La Liga. A cycle impossible to be broken. Remco Pasveer has enjoyed a somewhat unexpected renaissance in the twilight of his career. The one-time PSV backup moved to Vitesse aged 33 and impressed over a 4-year spell, eventually earning a move to Ajax last summer. When suspensions and injuries opened the door for him to step in as a starter, he took the chance with both hands. But time is not on his side, and the recent arrival of Geronimo Rulli from Villarreal has pushed him back down the pecking order. Oh no! My 38-year-old backup keeper doesn't see his future here. How will I cope? Anyway, Mustermann's attention was clearly elsewhere. In a move many suggest was an act of self-sabotage, the Ajax legal team stepped in and dismissed the entirety of the non-playing staff, including themselves. With pre-season now well underway, Mustermann turned to some familiar former players to give a helping hand. Marco van Basten arrived as director of football, whilst Dennis Bergkamp, Jari Litmanen and Hedwiges Maduro have all joined the coaching setup. Pre-season is often the most challenging part of the year for players, especially under new management. Beyond knocking off the summer rust, the squad needs to get accustomed to new ideas as well as new teammates. To aid the process, Ajax have arranged a training camp in exotic Haarlem. 28 players in total made the journey, and Mustermann was keen to see them all in action, building completely different 11s in each half of every fixture. 4 wins out of 4 against lesser opposition was somewhat routine and very much expected. With heavy rotation, there was little indication of a preferred starting lineup. One thing seemed certain, however. Captain Dusan Tadic was going to play an integral part. With 2 goals and 3 assists in 180 minutes, it was clear that Ajax's attacking play was going to be funneled through the 33-year-old Serbian winger. Academy graduate Jurrien Timber also appears to be set for a new role. Ostensibly used as a defender since breaking into the first team, Timber had found himself at the base of midfield in Mustermann's 4-3-3 formation. It's not about positions, it's about functions. Jurrien is a great example. He can defend as a 4, build up as a 6. Lady in the streets, weak in the sheets. Positionless football, baby. Before the season gets underway in earnest, there was the small matter of the Johan Cruyff Shield to attend to. The match-up between the previous season's league and cup winners was renamed in 1996 to honour the former Ajax legend, a man who never played or managed in the competition at any point throughout his career. As reigning Eredivisie champions, Ajax are preparing to welcome long-time rivals PSV to the Amsterdam Arena. It's not just an opportunity to gauge how well pre-season preparations have been, but a chance to put down an early marker ahead of what is expected to be a fraught title race. everyone in the building is aware of the significance. Perhaps none more so than recent record signing Steven Bergwijn. Things hadn't panned out quite as expected for the talented forward at Tottenham, but now with Ajax, he has a chance to get his career back on track. His first opportunity may well come against the team with which he made his name. The former PSV graduate scored 31 goals for the Bern, including one against Ajax en route to securing the 2017-18 title. Johannes Mustermann, however, is not interested in sentiment, with Bergwijn having to settle for a place on the bench. PSV are entering a new era themselves, with legendary striker Ruud van Nistelrooy taking charge for the first time. Two titans of Dutch football, two debutant managers eager to make their mark. What should be an even contest proved to be anything but, as Ajax carved through their opposition with relative ease. Ghanaian sensation Mohamed Kudus eventually opened the scoring in the 10th minute, racing on to wrench his ball over the top. PSV dominated possession deep, but were unable to get out of their own half, and when Ajax won the ball they were incisive with their passing and movement. Walter Benitez was in magnificent form, and in combination with some poor finishing, helped keep the score respectable until Tadic doubled Ajax's lead. Despite the scoreline, Mustermann was not happy.
Are we tired? Do we need a nap between shots? We need to f***ing press him. Bangare's had so many touches, FIFA are writing a song about him right now.
As the saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Half-time adjustments led to PSV's first chance, Veerman playing in Hazard, who blazed over from close range. As it turned out, that was their only chance, as the second half petered out in the manner that these exhibition matches often do. Final whistle, 2-0. Mustermann secures a trophy in his first match in charge. A trophy, no less, that has eluded even the greatest managers. Jose Mourinho, Pep Guardiola, Sir Alex Ferguson. None have tasted Johan Cruyff's Shield success. The Ajax Academy is renowned throughout the world, but it's not just about discovering and nurturing talent, it's a tale of sustainability. Ajax's very business model thrives on producing young talents, polishing them into diamonds, then auctioning them to Europe's elite clubs for substantial fees. Recent graduates like Matthias de Ligt and Frenkie de Jong have taken their talents to the world stage, and the current crop of youngsters harbour similar ambitions. One such hopeful talent is 18-year-old Christian Nowt. At 15, he made his debut for Breiðablik in Iceland's top division, before making the move to join Ajax in 2020. Called up to the senior squad for the pre-season training camp, Linssen impressed, and earned a place amongst the substitutes for the season-opening 3-0 win over Fortuna Sittard. It's the eve of their second fixture, a home game against Groningen, and manager Johannes Mustermann has just received news that vice-captain Davy Klaasen's hamstring has gone. With Florian Grillitsch not yet fully fit, it looks like the Icelandic prodigy is set for a surprise start.
Christian, today will be the biggest Icelandic debut since Björk. I have faith in you.
Born 10 years after Björk's first solo album was released, Linssen did not understand the reference, but the sentiment was appreciated nonetheless. When a young player makes a breakthrough at a big club, pundits often talk about playing without fear. A confidence bolstered by youthful enthusiasm that sees them willing to chase lost causes in the hope the defender makes a mistake. Linssen ready to pounce and square the ball to Kudus for a simple tap-in. FC Groningen, who have never won the Eredivisie, are predicted to finish mid-table, and so little is expected of them from a match-up against the reigning champions. In fact, they have never won at the Amsterdam Arena, a record that looks likely to continue as Tadic's penalty doubles the lead after Kudus was felled. The Ghanaian got his second shortly thereafter, tapping in a rebound to put Ajax out of sight midway through the first half. Groningen did not wilt, and though sparse, did create chances of their own. At times, however, their fighting spirit was ill-advised. The second penalty was overturned by VAR, as Ajax continued to pin their opposition deep in search of a fourth, Eventually the pressure told. Linson was once again brought down, and this time the penalty stood. Kudus stepped up and netted his hat-trick. There was still time for more, but Michael Verreps did everything he could to keep the score down, whilst Rooley made sure he played his part in keeping a clean sheet. Kudus most certainly took the headlines, scoring his first career hat-trick, but it was the young Icelandic prodigy who won the hearts of fans across the country. An assist and a penalty won in 74 minutes was an outstanding contribution after being thrust into the spotlight at the last minute. Despite his heroics, Linson returned to the bench the following week. Klaasen's injury was only slight and, once fit, he reverted to the starting lineup as Ajax eased to a comfortable 2-0 win over Rotterdam. After such an electric start to the campaign, it is easy to forget that Mustermann has only been in charge for 6 weeks. The summer was hectic, and his appointment could only be described as rushed. Now settled, he is keen to put his stamp on the squad. Marco van Basten was one of Mustermann's first appointments, and as director of football will be responsible for overseeing transfers. Together, they have identified areas they would like to address, and the recruitment team have spent the last few weeks scouring Europe to compile a list of targets. Some well known, others less so. While some teams like to conduct their business publicly, Ajax are keeping things close to their chest. The list has been whittled down, and with less than a week until the transfer window closes, Van der Basten has been given the go-ahead to work his magic. With no signing imminent before the weekend, however, it's business as usual for the first team ahead of their upcoming trip to Utrecht. Goals from Dusan Tadic and Steven Bergwijn seal a 2-0 win, completing a perfect month and keeping Ajax in lockstep with PSV at the top of the Eredivisie. It is the morning of transfer deadline day, and news is starting to emerge from Amsterdam that Ajax have secured their first signing of the Mustermann era. To avoid potential leaks scuppering the deal, management have kept tight-lipped, providing details on a need-to-know basis only. This has left some teams in the dark, none more so than the marketing team, who, with barely any notice at all, are expected to announce the signing across Ajax's social media platforms.
So, Mees Hilgers?
Mees Hilgers.
Who is Mees Hilgers?
Absolutely no idea. Boss just said to call him the future of Dutch football.
Now, we can't do that. In the last 12 months, we've done that for Divine Range, Jurien Timber,
Jorel Hato, Jan Fitzjim,
Brian Brobby. Can you believe we had the gall to call Brian Brobby the future of Dutch football?
I shall call him Mini-Me.
Arriving from Twente for €16 million, Mees Hilgers might not have been the high-profile signing fans expected. The 21-year-old Dutch centre-back had a breakout season the year before, starting 20 times, but few predicted he was on the radar of a club of Ajax's stature. The fans did not need to wait long to see their new man in action. Hilgers came straight into the starting lineup for the next match against Camber, with Calvin Bassey making way. SC Camber were one of the surprise packages of the 21-22 season. Having fallen victim to the suspended COVID season, where they led the Eredivisie, they eventually secured promotion the following year. In their first season back, they finished 9th. Survival might be harder this time round, but they did well to keep Ajax at bay until Timber's 39th minute header from Tadic's corner. They did better than well, in fact. Going 1-0 down was the catalyst for a revival, and when debutant Mees Hilgers blocked Mahi's shot, Paul was on hand to score the equaliser. Parity would not last long, however. Owen van Daal's cross found the gargantuan Italian striker Lorenzo Luca, and Ajax's lead was restored. It is only the 5th game of the season, but a theme is starting to emerge. As expected, given the resources at their disposal, Ajax are proving to be dominant, but their finishing has been, at best, wasteful. Kudus eventually settles the tie in the 85th minute, but the game should have been over long before that point. Robbie's delightful chip only serves to cover up earlier profligacy. It's taken 6 games, but Geronimo Rulli has finally conceded. For many, the correlation between the end of Ajax's clean sheet streak and Mies Hilger's debut was too obvious to ignore. But having only arrived 48 hours prior, it was a solid performance, and his contribution in build-up was clear for most to see. It's mid-September, and Mustermann's attention has turned to the upcoming Noord-Hollandse derby with AZ. Based in Alkmaar, more famous for its cheese market than its football team, AZ very much sit in the shadows of their illustrious neighbours. But this does not make it a foregone conclusion. Last season, Ajax picked up only 1 point against AZ and will be keen to make a much better showing this time round. Still boasting an 100% record after a Kenneth Taylor brace helped them to a 4-0 win over Heerenveen, Ajax are confident. That confidence may be about to dwindle. With less than 48 hours until kickoff, Mustermann has been informed that first-choice goalkeeper Geronimo Rulli has suffered a thigh injury that will rule him out for the next 2 weeks. The upcoming international break will lessen the impact, but for now, Ajax need to turn to one-to-way veteran Remco Pasveer. Despite announcing his intention to leave at the end of the season, Pasveer is still very much a part of the squad and will be hoping to make the most of the opportunity to prove he can still perform at a high level. There is something special about Derby Day. The intense, brooding atmosphere, hearts pumping, adrenaline rushing. The 5th minute red card. This was never going to be an easy tie for AZ, but Milos Kerkez's dismissal will surely make things tougher. Mies de Wit's own goal from the resulting free kick might have made it nigh on impossible. With a man advantage, the conditions were perfect for Ajax. Stretch the opposition, tire them out, and pick at the holes that open up. Before the red card, AZ right-back Yukinari Sugawara had earned himself a booking, and Ajax were keen to attack down that side at every opportunity. A plan that bore fruit, as a quick-fire double from Mohamed Kudus put them firmly in control. 14 years ago, AZ won the Eredivisie, becoming the first team outside the Big Three to do so since 1981. On today's showing, it will be a long time before they are in a similar position again. Ajax eased off in the second half, conserving energy, but not until Kudus completed his second hat-trick of the season with a wonderful volley into the far corner. 4-0 and bragging rights secured. A perfect derby.
That was unbelievable. We were Gouda value for the win. Better luck next time, Alkmaar.
It's a second hat-trick of the season for Mohamed Kudus, and the Right to Dream Academy graduate now has 12 contributions in just 630 minutes. It's a sensational start for the Ghanaian international, and one that's earned him a new contract as Europe's elites have started to pay attention.
Given everything that can happen in this game, it's simplistic to say that it's solely down to injuries. We have depth for this very reason. Cover for poor form, injuries, suspensions for sending unsolicited photos. Allegedly.
It is often said that the difference between success and failure comes down to which team stays the most injury-free. Mustermann's glib response to such comments at the beginning of the season might have been to the contrary, but the demands of a busy season are starting to take their toll. A 3-0 win over Go-Ahead Eagles was marred by a sprained knee ligament injury for Lorenzo Luca that would keep him out until after the World Cup. A virus laid low wingbacks Owen Vandal and Jorge Sanchez, but did nothing to kill Ajax's momentum as they registered comfortable wins over Volendam and Excelsior. Francisco Conceição and Kenneth Taylor picked up groin and rib injuries respectively, but the worst was yet to come. 33-year-old captain Dusan Tadic has been in scintillating form since arriving from Southampton in 2018. Despite his advancing years, he's shown no signs of slowing down and already has 8 goals and 8 assists to his name so far. He will have to wait, however, to add to that tally. Head physio Rinus Lervers has just informed Mustermann that Tadic has broken down with a hip injury and is likely to miss the next 3 months. It's a cruel blow for a player who has been an integral part of Ajax's unbeaten run. It does, however, open up an opportunity for Steven Berghuis. The former Feyenoord man has found himself on the outside looking in, having only started 4 times so far this campaign. With Tadic set for a lengthy spell on the sidelines, Berghuis will surely get his chance. Pick your proverb. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, or you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. The loss of Tadic, a leader on and off the pitch, cannot be overstated, and in his stead, vice-captain Davy Klaassen fails the first test, his penalty pushed away by Joel Pereira. Thankfully, Kudus is in the form of his life, and his looping header gives Ajax the lead. RKC have won 2 of their last 3 league games to lift them out of the relegation zone, but few would consider them likely contenders for an upset. That was, of course, until Pele Clement's 56th minute equaliser. Ajax's injury crisis had caused little disruption to their defence, so there should be no excuses. Bergwijn restored the lead almost immediately, and whilst Ajax continued to create chances, they lacked the fluidity of past games. In particular, Berghuis struggled in the Tadic role, and Ajax notably improved once they abandoned that idea and reshuffled their front line. With 15 minutes remaining, Pereira fumbled an easy save and gave Ajax breathing room to see out the game.
Well, they got the win, but injuries to Kudus and Brubby means they don't just top the league, but also the injury table. Should their fans be worried?
Oh, cry me a river, Kevin. Their wage spend in a week is as much as some teams spend all season, and they have an academy full of the best youngsters, both from all over the world. They'll be fine. Maybe they should ask some questions of their medical team, though.
With Kudus and Brobby both picking up knocks, the injury list is getting longer by the day. And like the media, fans are beginning to question whether this is merely bad luck or a sign of a deeper problem at the Amsterdam Arena. As with the rest of the backroom, the medical team was hastily assembled after a chaotic summer. Head physio Rinus Lervers was brought in as some form of package deal, with sons Sven and Falk arriving in tow, and the perceived nepotism was hard to ignore in times of crisis. For better or worse, Mustermann has faith in his medical team, and is going to stick by them, whatever the cost. The pinnacle of club football, the UEFA Champions League is without doubt the ultimate prize for a team of Ajax's calibre. Having won 3 consecutive trophies in the early 70s, Ajax have not tasted success since Patrick Kluivert's 85th minute winner against AC Milan in 1995. They were runners-up a year later, when current coach Jari Litmanen's equaliser was enough to take the game to penalties, but not enough to avoid defeat. It's been slim pickings in Europe ever since. If that's going to change, they'll have to do it the hard way. Despite being in pot 1, a tough group with Liverpool and Bayer Leverkusen awaits, with morale is high amongst a group of players who are winning at a canter in the Eredivisie. Tadic's penalty secured a 2-1 win in Germany to open the campaign for 10-man Ajax, before a comfortable 2-0 home victory over Copenhagen. Anfield proved a trickier tie, but some Geronimo Rulli heroics helped them keep the goal scoreless and secure a point. Aided by an Andy Robertson red card and a Kenneth Taylor brace, Ajax romped to a 3-0 win in the return game. Just one more win would secure qualification for the next round, and youngster David Calico obliged with an 87th minute winner against Copenhagen. Before Ajax bookended the group stage with another 2-0 win over Leverkusen. It was enough to secure top spot and seeding for the knockout round. Dignitaries from all 16 clubs assembled at the Grimaldi Forum in Monaco as one-time Ajax forward Michael Laudrup was tasked with revealing everyone's fate. Having been drawn together in Group G, Liverpool were not a viable opponent. PSG, on the other hand, were, and there was a palpable sigh of relief as Sevilla's name was revealed. Frankfurt were arguably the most desired opponents, but that opportunity has passed. Ajax will, for certain, draw a team with history in the tournament, and as each name is revealed, the likelihood of it being either the Spanish giants increases. Both teams can call upon the host as a former alumni, and the chance of a Laudrup derby is real. Once Chelsea's name was revealed to face FC Porto, it became a certainty. Barcelona or Real Madrid?
We're in trouble.
Attention has returned to the Eredivisie. With just 2 games remaining until the World Cup break, things are looking good for Ajax. Averaging over 3 goals a game, Ajax have maintained their 100% record and were boosted by the return of Kudus in a 3-0 win over Vitesse Arnhem. Their next opponents are familiar foes, PSV. It's been 3 months since Ajax's comfortable Johan Cruyff Shield victory, and a win in the upcoming match would open up an 8-point gap between them and their bitter rivals. Defeat, and the deficit is reduced to just 2 points. This is not just any rivalry, however. This is a battle between good and evil. Lost amongst the modern focus on state ownership and sports washing in football is a scandal so despicable it will shake you to your filament. I am, of course, talking about the Phoebus Cartel, a group of light bulb manufacturers who reduced the lifespan and increased the price of incandescent light bulbs in the early 20th century, and one of the earliest examples of planned obsolescence. At its centre, Philips, the electronics company from which the P in PSV comes from. In preparation for the upcoming match, Johannes Mustermann ordered the removal of all light bulbs from the facilities, regardless of type or manufacturer.
Right, boys, we need to be lights out from the off. They cannot hold a candle to us, and we need to make sure they know.
In the last 20 years, Ajax and PSV have accounted for 17 league titles between them, and once again they lead the pack. It should be a tight, tense affair, but with barely a minute gone, Kudus takes advantage of some lax defending to give Ajax the lead. Many had dismissed the Johan Cruyff Shield match as just an exhibition, from which nothing valuable could be learned, but as the game progressed, familiar patterns started to emerge. Ajax pressed high and were incisive in the final third. Kudus got his second before Bergwijn put Ajax 3-0 up on the half-hour mark. Saibari did pull one back for PSV, only to be chalked off by VAR for offside, but the Eindhoven team did put on a better show in the second half. Whilst they rarely truly troubled Rooley's goal, they did muster more chances than last time out. It was, however, relatively comfortable for Ajax, who brought on 17-year-old David Calico after 62 minutes. Having scored on his debut against Copenhagen, he added to his tally to condemn PSV to an embarrassing 4-0 defeat. Familiar foes, familiar outcome. Just like in the Johan Cruyff Shield, PSV had a fair share of the ball but struggled to create chances, whilst Ajax moved through them at will. There are still plenty of games left in the league, but the title is already looking like a foregone conclusion. A 2-0 win over Emmen means Ajax end 2022 perfect as the league breaks for the World Cup. Sportpark de Toekomst is not used to being empty at this time of year. With senior players either away at the Qatar World Cup or on an enforced holiday, the training ground is eerily quiet. Work hasn't stopped for senior management, however. After a summer of chaos, Ajax are perhaps grateful for the time to prepare fully for the second half of the season. Marco van Basten in particular has been busy. With the winter transfer window not yet open, he has already made his first move. Fiorentina winger Ricardo Sottil will arrive for little over €11 million, as Ajax look to bolster their attacking line with the ongoing absence of Tadic. It's also time to bid farewell to Remco Pasveer. Now 39, the want-away keeper has secured a move to Qatari side Al Gharafa. Finalised before the World Cup concluded, Pasveer will be able to say his goodbyes to the few who made the journey to the Middle East. It was a strange World Cup. With humanitarian concerns raised from the moment it was announced, FIFA stepped in to stop any coordinated messaging by teams. With limited options, the Netherlands found a unique way to voice their protest. On the pitch. An abject performance against England saw them knocked out in the second round and earned an early return to Ajax for Timber, Berghuis and Bergwijn. It was a similar fate for Edson Alvarez and Jorge Sanchez as Mexico were dumped out at the same stage. Ruli's Argentina and Kudus's Ghana failed to make it out of the groups. All in all, a dreadful tournament for Ajax's superstars as France successfully defended their title. The new year is upon us, and the 2-month wait for domestic football is finally over. Ajax's first game back is an away trip to NEC. Minor injuries see Taylor and Klaassen only fit for the bench, where they will be joined by new signing Ricardo Sotil. NEC may not be the most illustrious opponents that Ajax will face this season, but for a first game back there are fewer tougher teams to face. Sitting in 7th and boasting the 4th best defensive record in the league, Roger Meijer has put together a team that are hard to beat. Ajax, however, welcome back Lorenzo Luca from a ligament injury, and the Italian behemoth towers over everyone to head them into the lead. A clumsy challenge moments later and some welcome VAR intervention, and Kudus makes it 2-0 from the spot. Landry de Mata has been sensational, scoring 9 of NEC's 12 goals this season and sitting second in the goal-scoring charts. Almost exclusively, he carries their goal-scoring burden, and a 2-0 deficit may already be too much to ask for a team who have otherwise struggled in the attacking third. If 2-0 is too much, 3-0 definitely is. Another clumsy challenge gives Klaassen a chance from the spot, and he duly obliges, sending Roefs the wrong way. A perfect return to action for Ajax. Any fears that the mid-season break would halt Ajax's momentum were quickly allayed as normal service resumed. Klaassen's 77th minute penalty was their 7th in the Eredivisie already this season, and 3 more than any other team, much to the chagrin of rival fans. When Johann Wolfgang van Goethe wrote Faust in the early 19th century, it is highly unlikely he was thinking of football. But in it he said all things are transitory, a maxim that Ajax find themselves facing on a regular basis. Edson Alvarez has been a key component of a defence that has only conceded 4 goals since Mustermann arrived. A leader without the armband is one of the first names on the team sheet. His performance have not gone without notice, however, and when Newcastle started making inquiries, he was quick to inform the team that he is ready for a new challenge. 48 million euros later, and Alvarez was a magpie. The Premier League plundering didn't stop there. Back in August, Director of Football Marco van Basten was widely praised for securing the future of the phenomenon that is Mohamed Kudus. With 14 goals and 5 assists in 19 games so far, it has proved to be a wise decision. A wise decision marked with an asterisk. The new contract came with a €65 million release clause, and given Kudus' absolute dominance, Man City were ready to swoop in at the earliest opportunity.
We're in trouble.
In defence, summer arrival Calvin Bassey had been a regular part of the rotation, and so it is expected that he will move into a permanent starting role alongside Mies Hilgers. The first game without their stars, Ajax did not miss a beat, as they romped to a 4-0 win over FC23. A sterner test would follow, as Ajax travelled to Rotterdam for the Klassiker derby. Feyenoord might not have had the success in recent years that they once did, having only won the Eredivisie 3 times since 1993, but this is a fierce rivalry often marred by scenes of violence. The fans are passionate, and defeat here would be unforgivable. To bolster their thinning defence, Marco van Basten has brought in Rayo Vallecano's Alejandro Catena for a modest €5 million. Comfortable with the ball at his feet and taller than either Hilgers or Bassey, Catena is expected to be a veteran presence who can provide some depth and will be amongst the substitutes for the upcoming derby. When it comes to big games, like those against PSV and AZ, Ajax were quick out the traps, keen to seize momentum from the very off. Bergwijn continued that trend, seizing on a defensive error to fire Ajax ahead inside 3 minutes. 90 seconds later and it was 2-0, as Luca passed the ball into the net from 8 yards out. Feyenoord came into this game off the back of a 1-0 defeat to Groningen that halted their 11-game unbeaten streak and put them 5 points adrift of second-place PSV. On loan winger Sebastian Szymanski was causing all sorts of problems and halved the deficit midway through the first half. Drifting between Van Gaal and Bassi, he had Ajax in a bind and set through Danilo for an equaliser, only to be overturned for offside by VAR. Feyenoord were in the ascendancy, and the reshuffled Ajax backline looked lost without the leadership of Edson Alvarez to keep them organised. But this is why they brought in Geronimo Rulli. The Argentine keeper has oftentimes been a spectator this season, but today he was needed and he delivered. It wasn't pretty, but Ajax emerged victorious. 2 early goals provided a buffer that Feyenoord could not overturn, even if they deserved to. A byproduct of the Qatar World Cup is an oddly truncated season, and now domestic football has resumed, the games are coming thick and fast. A 3-0 win over Volendam saw the return of Dusan Tadic, which was quickly followed by the 4-0 dismantling of Excelsior in Rotterdam. With January almost at a close and €100 million burning a hole in his back pocket, Marco van Basten had a proposal for Johannes Mustermann. Up until now, Ajax had taken a data-heavy approach to recruitment. For less than half of what they received for Kudus, Ajax have signed Hilgers, Sotil and Catena. Whilst the latter two have only arrived recently, they've performed well, whilst Hilgers has been an unmitigated success. Sometimes, however, you need to go big to truly whet the appetite of fans. With the transfer deadline looming, Van Basten has someone in mind. A club record €75 million fee had been agreed. It was more than double the previous record, held by summer arrival Steven Bergwijn. Contract signed, and Ajax had their man. Mikel Oyarzabal definitely fits the Ajax mould. An exceptional technician who can play in any position across the front line. Having lost most of 2022 to a damaged cruciate ligament injury, the transfer is not without risk, but at 25 he is about to enter his prime, and is truly the kind of marquee signing to show the rest of Europe that Ajax are serious. A 2-0 win over Camber, courtesy of Lucas Brace, came too soon for Oyarzabal to make his first start. But with Bergwijn nursing a shin injury, he slotted straight into the lineup for the home game against RKC. There are few teams who can represent the disparity in the Eredivisie better than RKC and Ajax. New arrival Mikel Oyarzabal earns more than double the entirety of the RKC squad. He is not an outlier either, with 4 others earning above RKC's €50,000 per week wage budget. It is then no surprise that Ajax's superstars rushed out to a 2-0 lead inside the opening 15 minutes. The disparity does not end there. With the exception of Belgian utility man Dario van den Bosch, signed last summer for €55,000, RKC's squad is composed entirely of free transfers and loan signings. With defeat and inevitability, Verip's penalty save against Dusan Tadic can perhaps be considered a moral victory. Mustermann, however, is only interested in actual victories, and Mikel Oyarzabal's brace will be seen as vindication for the massive outlay. Ajax have no qualms flexing their financial muscle as Lorenzo Luca wrapped up a 5-0 win. 2 goals and an assist is not a bad way to introduce yourself, as Oyarzabal put in the kind of performance that made fans forget that Kudus even existed. By the end of the month his tally was up to 6, with braces against Sparta and Vitesse as Ajax extended their 100% run to 23 games and opened a 13-point gap to PSV. It is no secret that club competitions have a hierarchy. Ask any Ajax fan and success in the Johan Cruyff Shield or KNVB Becker would never be accepted as a substitute for success in the Eredivisie, or should one be allowed to dream, the Champions League. Ask some coaches, and you may even get the admission that domestic cup competitions are nothing but a distraction. At best, an opportunity to give playing time to fringe players and young prospects. Ask Johannes Mustermann, however, and he will go off on some pseudo-philosophical nonsense about building a winning culture. It is that which he uses as justification for including a number of starters in a 6-1 win over KVV Quick Boys, an amateur side from the Tweede division.
I suppose you could say we made quick work of them.
A tougher matchup in the second round needed a late Sotil header to secure a win over FC Twente, before he scored again in a comfortable 3-0 victory over RKC, despite Ajax playing with 10 men. Go-ahead Eagles were all that stood between Ajax and a KNVB Beker final against Feyenoord. Founded as Be Quick in 1902, Go-Ahead Eagles were forced to change their name to something more sensible 3 years later. Unfortunately today they were neither quick nor did they go ahead, as Grilich's long-range effort took a deflection and wrong-footed veteran keeper Erwin Mulder, before Mikael Oyarzabal rifled in a second from a tight angle inside 13 minutes. An early 2-0 lead is one way to calm the nerves, but there was plenty of time left for a comeback. League form counts for little in a knockout competition, and Ajax are keen to add to their tally. Calvin Bassey, however, has a different idea. The Italian-born centre-back bundles over Philip Rommens in the box, and the Belgian midfielder halves the deficit from 12 yards out. With half an hour left and a spot in the KNVB Beker final at stake, that should be the catalyst for a go-ahead revival. They cannot get out of their own half, however, as Ajax continue to pin them deep, and in the 94th minute, Christian Rasmussen heads home a third to seal the win. In the 30 years since the Johan Cruyff Shield returned, Ajax have never managed to secure a domestic treble. Could this be the year? There is of course a fourth competition. The Champions League round of 16 has drawn up a mouth-watering tie between two sides who share a history with one of football's true greats, Johan Cruyff. The Dutch legend twice made the move from Amsterdam to Barcelona, once as a player and then again 15 years later as a manager. Despite their inseparable links, they have never met in a Champions League knockout round, until now. The first leg would be at the Camp Nou, and when Ferran Torres opened the scoring in the second half, Ajax's chances of European success were quickly fading. Mustermann, however, was in a bullish mood.
When you joined, Mr. Mustermann, you said defeat is not an option. What does this result mean for you?
Who's this muppet? I mean, yeah, I did say that, but there's a marked difference between a narrow defeat in Barcelona and a game against Canberra. No offence. The tie isn't even over yet. We'll give them hell in Amsterdam.
It is true that when Arsenal completed their invincible season, it was only in the league. Defeats in domestic cups and Europe did nothing to dampen their achievement. But it is also true that Arsene Wenger didn't make any stupid bold claims before the season started. Either way, Mustermann has made a rod for his back ahead of the second leg. When two teams with a shared philosophy face one another, there's the risk of the game becoming a dour, tactical stalemate, where both teams effectively nullify one another's threats. There is also the possibility, however, of something beautiful and melodic, the footballing equivalent of a call and response, with both sides trading moments in the spotlight to serve up something truly delightful for the fans. Mustermann would have preferred the former, but instead got the latter, and saw hopes dashed by Robert Lewandowski's 64th minute opener. Ajax were not about to go gentle into that good night, and threw all caution to the wind. Barcelona put up the barricades. Then, with 13 minutes left, a glimmer of hope as Bassey bundled in from close range. A quick review and the goal stood. The Amsterdam arena was pounding, and 4 minutes later, Ajax had the lead. Sotil was onside and the tie was level on aggregate. The half was not over yet, and Ajax had the momentum. In the dying seconds, Sotil had space to break and chose to go it alone, with a chance to etch his name into Ajax folklore. Ricardo Sotil, the hero.
Absolutely buzzing! I'm naming my firstborn Ricardo. You know, he's already 11 years old, but I'm fighting the change tomorrow.
An astonishing result. One so unexpected that it may have seen this narrator leap out of his seat and double fist the air in silence so as not to wake the neighbours. Ajax's reward? Real Madrid.
We're in trouble.
To sleep, perchance to dream. Ajax fans will be forgiven for questioning whether this is real. The prospect of a quadruple would have been unfathomable at the start of the season. Of course, it isn't real. It's a game. Nonetheless, buoyed by cup victories, Ajax saw out the rest of March in much the same fashion. The Man Mountain Lorenzo Luca scored his 15th goal of the season against NEC. Not to be outdone, a Bergwijn hat-trick against Heerenveen took his tally over 20, while Sottel netted his 5th in a conclusive win over Feyenoord. Nothing can stop Ajax. With 2 months remaining, they need just 8 points to secure the title, just 12 points to set a new league record, and just 41 more goals to surpass the previous best set in 1986. The latter may be a little out of reach, but suffice to say the question that remains is just how many records can Ajax break? April opens with a trip to Deventer against defeated KNVB Becker semi-finalists Go Ahead Eagles. Ajax will be without Mies Hilgers and Jurien Timber, however. Mustermann's first signing picked up a groin strain and is set to miss the entire month, whilst a recurrence of twisted knee means Timber is only fit enough for the bench. It is exactly a month to the day since these two teams met in the KNVB Becker, and Ajax will be hoping for a repeat performance to bring the Eredivisie title one step closer. Linssen should have opened the scoring in the 24th minute, and just 2 minutes later they fell behind for only the third time this season as Dario volleyed Go Ahead ahead. Every crisis has its genesis, and unbeknownst to Ajax, Go Ahead might well have been theirs. The Deventer side gave Mark Overmars his first non-playing role as a technical advisor, directly leading to his appointment with the Amsterdam club. Now they look set to end Mustermann's hopes of an unbeaten season, as Ajax failed to find a way past Erwin Mulder.
You finally lost in the league. Can we call it a failure now?
You're right, there were no excuses. That'll be all.